So I dropped some stuff into our into the description for the YouTube live. I'm so excited to go over logo separation with you guys. I know that seems like a weird thing to be excited about, but it's the first step toward doing really cool stuff. So let me show you what it is that we're going to be working on. So I'm bringing over my Illustrator. I am on a PC. Sorry, guys. It's like motion graphics puberty. Like when people start working on PCs. When you're on a Mac, the Mac can do a lot of really great things in terms of graphic design, but when it comes to motion design, you really got to step it up and go for the PC because you get a lot more bang for your buck. Oh, awesome. Hi, Reiko. Hey, Mike. Check it out. I'm wearing Reiko's bracelet she made for me. So here we are, and I'm going to show you the different logos that I'm going to be working with today. This is one. It's a recent addition. We also have Telemundo Puerto Rico. Oh, hi, Carol. Hey, Anthony. And then we have Coca-Cola, and I think that was it. Yeah. All right, so if you go to the description for this YouTube live stream, there is a link and you can download the files from that link so you can play along. And I wish I could hear your voices. That would be so dope, but I can't. So you're just gonna have to type your questions into the chat, okay? You're welcome to play along with me, but if you don't feel like playing along with me, this will be available later. So this recording will be available later. Hi, Reiko. So I'm just going to put that into the chat so people don't keep asking, will this be available later? This recording will be available later too. Heather, hi, Heather. Okay, so here we go. And I'm going to do these kind of in order of complexity because Coca-Cola, holy crap, that's like a complex project right there. Telemundo Puerto Rico, not as complex. Sapphire is kind of on the order of Coca-Cola, to be honest. And Pfizer is pretty simple until you start thinking about animation. And so many of these, it's like, I'm not sure how I want to animate it. That is like totally the wrong answer. When you're about to get a logo ready for animation, your very first concern should be, how am I going to animate this thing? And once you've decided how you want to animate the thing, oh, hi, Amy. Once you decide how you want to animate the thing, that's when you should like make a plan. And it helps to like draw it out so you know how many pieces you want. Because like supposing you were doing the Telemundo animation and you didn't actually need the letters to be separated out, like you would save a ton of time if you could just leave all those letters as one layer. Okay, so let's really quick talk about the architecture of Illustrator. Illustrator is kind of a jerk program. It's not exactly user-friendly, but that doesn't mean you need to learn all of it in order to be successful at it for motion design. I'm gonna say that again. Just because Illustrator is hard to use doesn't mean you need to master the whole thing in order to use it effectively for motion design. You may have heard of this thing, it's called the 80-20 rule. You really only need to know like 20% of a thing in order to do 80% of the things with it. So same thing goes with Illustrator. So let me just close up all of these because I was messing with them before class, and you know, it would be like cheating if I just like jumped in and was like, yeah, look at all this stuff that's already done. These were some of the other contenders. Oh my gosh, I have so many open, so many. All right, let's take a back. And I'm gonna close anything and everything in Illustrator. So the very first thing I need to say is, if you are working from a Mac especially, don't double click the logo in order to open it in Illustrator. You should not do that. What you should do is you should open it through Illustrator. So open Illustrator first and foremost, and then go File menu, Open. okay? Or you can click this big ass button on the left, doesn't matter. So I click on open and I come over here and I'm gonna go to my logos for separation. And in case you missed it, check it out in the description. You can download these very same logos from my Google Drive. Okay, so I'm gonna start with the Telemundo Puerto Rico. I hit open and it's gonna open it up in the middle in a minute. Ta-da, there it is. So over here on the right, I have my layers. And the layers are not any. We really only have one layer. And that is not useful for animation. See this little twirly guy right here? If that twirly guy is like twirled down and you have a bunch of stuff in it and then you closed it and there's really only one thing, that's all you're gonna see when you go to After Effects. So that's not cool at all. So we need to bust this up into actual proper layers where everything is like collapsed shut. You're going to have each element that's gonna be animated as its own unique layer. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this and we're gonna figure out how we're gonna animate it first and foremost, and then we're going to separate it out based on that. So I envision that what we're gonna do is have each of these halves as a separate layer that goes shh, and like kind of like merges together. It's gonna be so beautiful. And then each of the letters is gonna be its own thing too. Now, if you look at this hierarchy, we have like the main layer name up here, and then we have this whatever that has all this crap under it. So we need to bust this up. This looks to me like a group or a sublayer, but I'm gonna try some things to figure out which one it is. Object menu, ungroup. Oh, so in case you missed it, I just clicked on that first thing that had this like weird ass name. It's like G2388, like whatever. So that G3, oh look, that's not working. I'm gonna X out of it. So anyways, this G2388 layer is actually a group. So when I go to object menu and I go to ungroup, that's basically just gonna bust this hierarchy, all this crap in here, up a level, okay? Think of it like kind of like a Harvard outline. Remember when we would write term papers? Kind of like that. So I take that and I go object, ungroup. Ooh, look at that. Oh, hi, Fred. So if in case you missed it, in the description, you can download the file so you can play along if you'd like. And I'm just using the Telemundo Puerto Rico, and I'm going to break it up so that we have these two halves as separate pieces and this middle guy as a separate piece, just so I have the color. And then each of the letters is going to be separated as well. So next I'm going to ungroup this thing because this thing has stuff inside it too. Once again, object ungroup. Okay, there we go. And it seems to me that we have this piece here, and then we have two overlapping little L thingies. I love it. So that's perfect. That is exactly what I wanted. So happy. But remember, these are not real layers. So when you swivel this stuff open, it's still just one layer. So we gotta bust it again, okay? So I'm gonna take this top level right here. I'm gonna click the belly button on the far right-hand side, okay? And when I click that belly button, that selects all the crap underneath, okay? So it's not enough to just select the name of the layer. You have to click the belly button too. I know, that's super weird, but yeah, you gotta do them both. That is not the official name, friends. If you go on Google and you're like, belly button in Illustrator, no, you're not gonna find it. This is a Kalika term. This is not like a everybody term. So you're gonna click on that thing up atop. You're gonna go to, oh, not up there, sorry. You're gonna go to this little hamburger menu in the upper right corner, okay? Click the little hamburger menu, and this is the part that trips up everyone. Release to layers sequence. RLS, release to layers sequence. I don't know why they call it that. It's like a dumb name for what we're actually doing, but it works. So you click that, and now we have all these sub layers. We're still not out of the woods. If I swivel this guy closed, like all that stuff is still there. So if you're playing along and if you're feeling like, oh, I'm not quite getting it, feel free to drop your questions into the comments and I will answer them, okay? I'm like periodically glancing over to my right to see if anybody's writing stuff. So far, everyone's just said hello. So I want to bust these guys out of here. Like, let's get them out. So I'm going to select all of them like this. Click layer 2, shift click layer 15, and drag downward. And see that like dark-ish, like that thick-ish blue line that just showed up down there? I'm going to drop down, and now they are real layers with terrible names, but they're real layers, okay? All of these have content in them, meaning they got stuff inside, except for this guy right here. And the reason why it doesn't have stuff inside, and I know right away, is not only this little layered thumbnail, but there's no little sideways facing triangle. All these other dudes have a sideways facing triangle, but this guy, nothing. So I can just click the trash icon and it goes bye-bye. Okay, so this is great, right? We've got like the intersecting part, we got the one side, the other one side, we have our letters of the word Puerto Rico all separated, and I think you know where I'm going with this. And oh crap, this whole word is one thing. That is not good. We need to fix that. So let's deal with it. And it says it's a path. Okay, brace yourselves. This is not the fun part. The fun part is when we get to animate, right? It's almost like, you know, the cooking before the party. Like the party's the fun part. The cooking part is, you know, kind of annoying. But right here, we're cooking. So this guy, we got to bust it up. But it's just one path. This is what is known as a compound path. So we got to break it up. Object menu, compound path, release. And that's going to break it up into so many different individual paths that it's not even funny. And you probably noticed that now our counters for letter D and letter O are filled in. Ew, that's not good. So let's punch those out and then break this into individual layers too. Okay, so I'm going to select all this stuff, and I'm doing it with the black selection tool right up here. Okay, so I'm going to go whoop. See that? I made like a rectangle. And then I'm going to go to Window, Pathfinder. Now the Pathfinder is kind of like if you've ever gone to somebody's house who was like a big baker, and you like opened up one of their drawers and it was like, oh, cookie cutters. And there were so many cookie cutters. That's the Pathfinder. Okay, guys? So with the Pathfinder, when you have like layers that overlap, you can punch them out, which is amazing. So if I go over here and I hover, oh my gosh, tool tips. The first one says unite. No, I don't want to unite. If I unite that, then it's going to say telemundo. No, I want telemundo. So no, unite isn't the answer. Minus front, that might work if the front is smaller than the back, and I can determine that by clicking these little belly buttons, right? Oh, hi, Angel. Welcome. So again, in the description, you can download the zip file of the logos that we're working with. All right. Sorry. I got so excited. My nose started to run. Anyways, so here we go. I'm going to cut this out. And since the top is smaller than the bottom, all I had to do is do meh and then meh. Oh, it punched it out. Look how cute. I can do the same thing over here, or I can try a different one. How about exclude? Exclude is going to get rid of stuff that overlaps. Okay? Boom. Oh, that's nice. And then I can take this guy, select layer 15, and don't forget, you also have to select the belly button. So I select the belly button, and I go over to, you guessed it, nope, not the object menu. I keep going to the wrong spot. Go to the hamburger, go to release to layers sequence. Boom, now they are individual layers. Select the first of the individual not individual layers, they're individual sub-layers, because if I swivel close, not good. Click layer 16, shift click layer 24, drag all their asses down a notch, boom, they're all separated. Okay, so now we have the unenviable task of choosing whether we're going to label this stuff or not. Because the thing is, when you import this into After Effects is going to know what to do. It's just going to get it. Oh, hi, Sapna. So After Effects is going to know what to do. Like when you hover over stuff in After Effects, just like how when I'm hovering over stuff in Illustrator, it highlights and it lets you click it. So you don't really have to label all this stuff. The important part is that each layer has to be its own unique name. Okay. I personally am a stickler for labeling. It gives me a great sense of comfort. So I'm going to put Telemundo in order and then Puerto Rico in order just by dragging downward. I'm not going to bore you with it, but this is the process. If there's ever any question of which E it is, I just drag them down. And again, you don't have to rename them because After Effects will figure things out for you if you don't. Okay, but for your own sanity, it might just make more sense to do that. Okay, and let me show you one other thing here. If you are to rename your layers, you should make sure still that they have unique names. So with Telemundo, I would probably do T1, right? And then this would be E1, and this would be L1. In case if there's another one. No, there's not. But I do know that there's more than one E. I do know that there's more than one T because of Puerto Rico. So you can just go through and name them. Again, I'm not going to bore you with all of that, but this guy is like almost ready to go. The last step, okay, and this makes life much easier if you are sort of a newbie at Illustrator and sort of a newbie at After Effects, is if you like for real prep this guy here in Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my artboard bigger, basically making my canvas size bigger. So I'm going to go to the Artboard Tool, which is this dude right here. Now, if you're in like the skinny toolbox thing, it's right above the zoom tool. So you click that and then you go over to the Properties tab. And if any of these tabs are missing for you, just go to the Window menu and choose it from there. Okay. And then in the artboard, I want to mess with it. I want to change the preset. Now, if you're doing stuff for Instagram, I'm sure you're like, oh, Illustrator, I'm sure you have an Instagram preset. No, Illustrator is a jerk and doesn't have an Instagram preset, but we'll fix it. What you would do as a first step, whether you're doing HD or you're doing Instagram, is you would do HD TV 1080. Okay, that's your first step. After that, you can go into the settings a little bit better by clicking on Artboard Options. And when you click on Artboard Options, it brings you this new window that tells you all kinds of important things, like how many artboards there are, what the dimensions are of your artboards. And right here, friends, this width area is where you can change the width of your artboard. So instead of 1920, you could do 1080 for your Instagram, and then you'll be like so hot on social, am I right? So now I have 1080 by 1080, and then I can hit OK. And if I zoom out, which I can just grab up my zoom tool and hold Option and click, look at that. That's the whole logo. Now, supposing you wanted to make this smaller or bigger, here's what you do. You switch over to the Selection tool, you go to the Select menu, you go to All, okay, and that selects all your stuff. And then rather than dragging a corner, which could distort your logo, not cool, what you want to do instead is go to Object, Transform, Scale. Okay, and again, if anything that I'm saying isn't making sense, like please just drop it into the chat and I'd be happy to answer it. That's the cool thing about YouTube Live. Okay, so transform scale. And you can type in the scale amount. And if you have this little preview checkbox turned on, when you change the scale amount, it's going to show you how much you've changed the scale. So I could change the uniform size here. That means that both width and height are going to stay proportional. I could change that to 80, and just by clicking into a different box, look at that, it changed the size. I'm going to do it again because it was so fun. Right up here, if I typed in like 115 and then clicked on a different box, it made it much bigger. Now remember, if you are animating a logo for a company that is super friendly and geared more toward children, make the logo as big as you want. But if you're designing something and animating something for a more adult audience, for something that's more maybe grown up, don't make it so big. Think of it like those stores in Soho that have like 5 handbags on one giant wall. negative space is your friend. So change this uniform size right here. Instead of 115, you could change it to like 80. And then like that looks legit. I would even go hazard to say like maybe 70. And you see how it's scaling from the center and it's proportional? Like this is what you want. Okay, so this is awesome. Don't click copy. No. We don't want two of these. We just want this. So I hit OK. Yay, look at that. This guy is like ready to go aside from labeling. Fine, fabulous. We're not done yet. Notice two things. First of all, this file extension is still set to SVG, which stands for something vector graphics. Okay, not the official term. Clearly, I don't know what it means, but it's not an Illustrator file. And I know that After Effects has a very narrow definition of what it will and will not import. So I have to change my file to a different format. So I have to do File, Save As, and then in my, I'm just going to save it to my logos for separation. Instead of save as type SVG, I'm going to save it as AI. Okay, and I'm just going to call it Telemundo Puerto Rico 2018 and hit save. One last thing. I got to make sure that this is RGB color space. Now, oh, it's saving. Sorry. My computer like wigged for a moment. I got nervous. I hit OK. Fabulous. Now, if you are, if you've tried this before and it didn't quite work, it's possible that you ran into the issue where it was a CMYK file rather than RGB. So what you should do is go to the File menu, go to Document Color Mode, and make sure it's RGB. Now, if your file is CMYK and you try to import it into After Effects will do it wrong. It won't tell you why. It'll just do it wrong, like a bad coworker who doesn't know how to do their job. Just does it wrong, doesn't ask any questions, bye-bye. So make sure it's RGB, okay? That's it. So Sapna had a question. How do you know how big you want it? Do you want the artboard to be the same size your comp size will be in After Effects? Yes, you want your artboard to be exactly the same size as your After Effects composition, because that will save you time once you get into After Effects. You won't have to worry about scaling it bigger, smaller, whatever, okay? So yeah, this guy's ready to go. It's RGB, it's got all of its layers. I just have to rename it. I hope that answers your question, Sapna. If you have a follow-up, please drop it into the chat. I'm going to open up another one. This one I'm going to show you a couple of things. I think I'm going to do the Sapphire one first. Yeah, I'll do the Sapphire one first. Here we go. Okay. Now this one is very interesting, and that's because in addition to it all just being on one layer and there being one group, there's a drop shadow. Yeah, do you see this, friends? There's a drop shadow on this logo. And shout out to Amy for sharing this logo with me. She did an animation based on it this week for After Effects Level 1 at NYU. And there's a drop shadow. Now the problem with layers that have drop shadows from Illustrator is that the drop shadow will rotate with your layer, which isn't how shadows work in the real world unless you're Peter Pan. So you want to turn off the drop shadow in Illustrator and then reapply it in After Effects on the whole thing. Okay, so after all the layers are moving and it's wonderful and spinning and whatever, then you can apply it to the whole animation, okay, or that whole layer. All right, and same thing goes for the fact that there are two identical logos going on. We have the white version and the black version, okay? So it's quite possible that you might be able to get away with doing all the work on just one of those, either the white or the black. I vote for the black one. Carol had a question. How did you change the artboard size in properties? That's a good one. So I'm going to do it on this one. You ready? So I'm just zooming out so you can see the current size of the artboard. I click on the Artboard tool. I go over to the properties window. First, I set the preset to whatever is generally what I want it to be. So HDTV 1080. And then these jerks hit it. You have to click this button, Artboard Options. And that is where you can set the actual pixel dimensions of your artboard aside from the preset. I know, it's really a drag. But yeah, then if you change this, like if I change this to the Instagram size of 1080, oh, and it says points, another teachable moment here. Let me share that with you in just a second. 1080 by 1080 points for now, and then I hit OK. Now it's 1080 by 1080 points, but I want pixels because this is not for print. This is for animation. So let me just go in here and fix that by going to my preferences on a Mac. It's going to be, of course, in your Illustrator menu under preferences, and you want to go to units. And under units, you want everything to be under pixels. Why are you still points? Oy. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Carol. Now I'm faced with the problem of this not showing me things in points, guides and grids. Huh. All right, I'm gonna have to look that up. I'll put it into the comments once I figure it out. But at any rate, like it is calculating points and pixels the same. And I know this because when I went to my HDTV 1080 and then I clicked on Artboard Options, it said 1920 points by 1080 points. And it wouldn't have been correct if it was like a different size, you know, like even when I do that, it's still fine. But at any rate, yeah, so that's how you would change it. And now this is HD, and then I did my selection tool, select all, object transform scale, and this time I'm going to scale it like 150% because I want it a little bit bigger, or maybe even bigger still, so like 200%. Yeah, that looks awesome. Okay, so like I said, there is a drop shadow. We need to figure out where the hey it is. So when I click on the belly button for group and I click the name group and I go to the properties tab, was it under properties? I did this earlier. Let me see if I can track it down. No, it's not in there. Oh, effects. Okay, so there's like an effects thing. So you need to find out where that effect is being put. So right here, if I click on that belly button and I go to properties, there we go. There's our drop shadow. It is not our friend. So I can click on choose an effect and I can choose a different effect, which I don't want, or I can simply click the drop shadow effect and I want to like capture this, like take a screenshot of that ish, like boom. There I have a screenshot, fantastic. And then I can get rid of it because it's not my friend. Okay, bye-bye. Now the problem is that now I can't see the white, right? So that's okay. I'm gonna turn on the transparent grid. I go to the window menu, view, sorry. Go to view, go to show transparent grid, and suddenly it looks like Photoshop and you're fine. Okay. So let me show you how I would go about breaking up something like this. I'm going to turn off everything except for the black text. And the black text is currently a group. So the E is separated from the S, which is a good thing. So if I click on the name of the group and I click on the belly button next to the group, I can go to Object Ungroup. Okay, so now I have the AFFIR as a separate layer, and then I have the E and the S as separate layers. And I can tell this, that they're separate paths at least, by clicking the little belly buttons, okay? Now again, as I mentioned, it's important to know how you're planning on animating this before you really get into it. So one thing that Amy did with her animation, which I thought was really clever, especially for something that's this complex, was she had the whole word wipe on rather than having it show up letter by letter or having it draw on, okay? And that's perfectly fine. When we're first learning these things, like shortcuts like wipes are fine. But one thing she wanted to be able to do was have this tail as a separate layer. So I'm going to show you how to do that. She wanted the tail to be a separate layer so she could have its own animation on it. So, hi April. So I'm going to turn off the compound path and the path for the E and the S so I don't screw them up. And this is me idiot-proofing my project against my future self. I'm going to duplicate this layer, okay? So I option drag down a notch, okay? And I'm just showing how to separate out this little tail here. I'm going to turn off one of them. And then I'm going to go at this with my scissors tool. And the hotkey for the scissors tool is C for skizzers. And it's located here with the eraser tool. Could you use the eraser tool? Yes. Is it less precise? Yes. Is it not my best friend? Yes. So scissors tool is my first line of defense, and then I go in and I would use the pen tool, okay? So the scissors tool, and I'm going to click on that section, and I'm going to click over here on that section. Then I'm going to click over here because basically I'm trying to separate this tail from the rest of the business. I'm going to click here. I'm just waiting for it to give me an error, guys, because it always gives me an error at some point. And I'm going to click here, and I'm going to click here. Okay, so now I have a bunch of things that are separated out. And if I start to move this stuff with my direct selection tool, that's this guy right here under the main selection tool, I can click here and see how it highlighted this part, like those path points. I don't need them. They are not my friend. I can move this guy upward. Look, I can use this point like later in life. I think that's going to be great. I don't need this, but I need that point so bad, friends. So if I just I think I can just copy it. Let me copy it and then let me paste in place. And it gave me both points, but that's okay. I'll live. I want to connect that to this guy. So see how I did that? I took the direct selection tool and I clicked on the straightaway, I clicked on this point and I was like, oh, that selected the rest of the word, not what I wanted. But then when I clicked on this line here, it selected this section. So that's a good thing. I don't want to accidentally connect this, so I'm just going to move it up like that. Goodbye. I don't want to accidentally connect this. Maybe I do. We'll see. Yeah, but it's not connected to anything else. It's just these 2 points. Yeah, those are good. So I'm going to take my pen tool and I'm going to click on this here and see how it gives me this little slash next to it. That's a good thing. So there's the slash, and then I'm going to come over here and, oh, not there. Sorry. I want to go here. And if there's ever any question, you can always bring back your original and be like, does this look bad? And yes, it does look bad, but that's because I'm not done yet. Okay. All right. Bye, Angel. Enjoy your PTA meeting. So right here, I'm going to grab this guy and I'm going to click here. Okay. And then I got this one here. And when I click the slash one, it allows me to then connect to here, which is good. I don't want this piece, but I can get rid of it later. So I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to come over here and it's going to intersect with this piece, supposedly. I'm just trying to get at that. Now, if at any point you need to abandon your path, you can hit the escape key on your keyboard and then just go back to your direct selection tool and do things with that one. So right here, here's my this one path. Here's that, which is still part of the same path. And then I can connect that to over here. So pen tool, hello, and then come over here, okay? and that connected to the wrong piece. So let me just undo a couple times and get back in here. Yeah, that was supposed to be scissored too. So scissors tool, I'm clicking that, I'm clicking here. Okay, that's better. And I can take this one and just move it out so it doesn't get in the way. This guy, I'm gonna move it out so it doesn't get in the way, and I'm just moving all those pieces, like get out of there. And then I'm gonna take my pen tool, click the end, and come over here and just try to connect it to this little piece here if I can. Okay, now it looks like something crazy just happened, so that happens sometimes. Let me just go in and clean this up a bit. So this is a compound path, so I can go in and release it a little bit. I can also use the eraser tool if I want to. So the eraser tool just does that, and now those two pieces are separate, which is kind of nice. And it actually broke everything into separate pieces too, which is not a bad thing. This is a mess. This is a mess. Let me turn off all these guys until I get to the heart of Texas. I want that. I don't want that. Bye-bye, bye-bye, bye-bye. Okay. And I want to trace over this path here. Okay, so I'm going to reduce the opacity of this one. Yeah, we haven't done that yet. Go over to Properties, go to the Opacity tab, and reduce the opacity. Okay, so now I can see the shape that I'm trying to emulate with this other dude. I'm going to lock this one because this one is like the important one. And then I'm going to create that missing shape from what's here. So this is my like little loop-de-loo. I'm going to cut it a little bit or erase it. I think cut is probably better. Remember, the scissors lives with the eraser, just like a traditional school box. And cut. Okay, and then I can get rid of this section here just by, see, I'm just clicking in there. Goodbye. And then I can make this whole thing over again. So here's an open-ended path, and I know it's open-ended because there's no like blue stripe going through it. Let me turn off my transparent grid so you can see what I'm talking about. See, there's like a blue line that's going here. And if you're like, it's hard to see the blue line, Kalika, what you can do is change the color of your layer by double-clicking the little thumbnail and then changing the color of it to like magenta. And then you're like, oh, now I see the magenta line, okay? All right, so now let's work on a little bit of reconstructive surgery here. So I'm gonna take my pen tool, I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna hover and just get this like lined up nicely here. And maybe I want it like over here for the animation. And then I'm gonna click here and click and drag to get those handles. But remember, the handles, you can't connect the handles to points. You can only connect points to points. And now I come over here and I got this other point that it connected to. Once again, I'm going to use my cheap lightbox method. Select this layer, go to Properties, reduce the opacity of the tail. And then in the layers, I can take this guy with my direct selection tool and just mess with it until it lines up. Okay? And mess with that too, because that's like really sharp. So to make something smoother, you want to click and hold your pen tool until you get to this. They call it the anchor point tool in Illustrator because the Adobe cafeteria is like, none of the Illustrator developers talk to the After Effects developers, so everybody uses the same terminology and it means different things. So just use this, I call it the convert tool because that's what they call it in After Effects, and then I'm just going to click and drag to get like a rounder shape on this part here. Okay, and then same thing goes here. I'm just going to fix up that tail a little bit just by pulling it because I don't want to change the contour. And I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good indeed. Yeah. And I always try to do things with as few points as possible. So this tail is ready now. And all this other crap, I can just throw it away just by clicking the belly button and clicking the trash. This little guy, and you can't trash it unless you can see it. So I could just get rid of all this shrapnel that's hanging out in the wangs. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Okay, so now I have this nice tail, and I want the F to not have the tail in it, so I am going to have to clean that up as well. So here's my F's, and they don't have any tail, so I can like clean that up fairly simply just by taking this. I'm just going to duplicate it one more time, and I'm going to, instead of using this compound path that has these lopped off ends, trash that, I'm going to work with this one and just get it so that it includes everything except the tail. Okay, so that shouldn't be too hard. What I can do is I can use the eraser tool for this. So go over to the scissors, click and hold, go to eraser, and then bloop bloop. Okay, and then right here, bloop bloop. And now I have like a bunch of rando layers that it just made. So it's got this bad tail. I say it's a bad tail because it doesn't like include all the stuff before it. And again, if any of this stuff doesn't make sense, like please chat it to me. So there we go, and then I can trash that. And now I want to fix up these little edges here. And that's one interesting thing about the eraser tool, is that it keeps your paths closed. The scissors tool actually opens your paths almost like, you know, a mouth, but the eraser tool, it keeps your paths closed, so you can do cool things with them then, like go back to your pen tool, P for pen, thank you, and then you can hover, and you see how it has that little pen minus now? I can click there, I can click there, and it just like cleaned itself right up. And if I delete that, yeah, now that's really clean. And I can delete that, and if you want to just straighten them, instead of using the pen, use the anchor point tool. There, I called it that. There we go, and then I'm going to delete those guys too. So click and hold the pen tool to get the anchor point tool and vice versa. And then right here, it looks like it's might be treating it like a separate path for some reason. Just going to get the pen tool again and just delete those little guys. Okay. If there's any questions, please drop them into the chat. I'll be happy to answer. There we go. Click and click. Yay. Yay, so nice and clean now. And if I turn on the tail, look at that tail. That's going to be so cute. And if I turn on my backup copy, ta-da, that worked out great. I'm so happy. And so this, I'm going to leave it, like, because it's my backup copy, but just got to go through and in the properties, increase the opacity of each of those guys. So I could even like drag the properties tab over a little bit and then just click the little belly button and change the opacity. Because remember, it's not enough to just click the layer. You got to click the layer and click the belly button and change the opacity, and then nice things happen. And it looks like this one didn't take for some reason. It did. It just doesn't, it didn't update the thumbnail. Okay. So now this is nearly done. Let's turn on all of our layers again. Notice I didn't even touch the white layer there, and that's because when I'm in After Effects, I'm just going to straight up copy the black one and just move its ass over. I think that's fine. So I'm going to start with the group and ungroup. Okay, then I'm going to click on the layer, click on the belly button for the layer, and I'm going to go to the hamburger, release to layers sequence once more. Looks like I have a little schnibble hanging out there somewhere. What are you? Yeah, we got a schnibble. And if you hate something, you can always just trash it. Yes, it's terrible artwork. Why would I want to keep it? And then this schnibble. Yeah. Because I have all that stuff, right? And if I turn off my backup copy, That's good. And then this is also a schnibble. That's the official term, schnibble. Okay, cool. So that's ready. Yay. Awesome. Okay, so I have enough time to show you guys another cool trick for separating out layers, and that actually involves After Effects. So one last step for the Sapphire full color. Before I do that, document color mode RGB, and then this one I would just rename all the stuff and just call this backup. All right, fabulous. Save as, Illustrator file, and then I'm going to show you the After Effects stuff, which is so dope. Here we go. AI, ta-da, there we go. And I'm waiting for the "Are you sure" window, in case if you're wondering. Look, the screen went black. Don't panic. All right, I hit OK, and wonderful. All right, so I'm going to go to After Effects. And those of you who are in my After Effects Level 1 course, or my After Effects Level 2 course, or my Illustrator for After Effects course, or any of the motion graphics courses I teach, basically, you are aware, especially if you've taken those classes on Zoom, that I am obsessed with scripts. So scripts are basically widgets for After Effects that make it better. Remember when the iPhone first came out and they were like, there's an app for that? I don't know if you're old enough to remember that. But yeah, there was an app for that. Well, in After Effects, there's a script for that. Anytime After Effects isn't acting the way that you want it to, there's a script for that. So After Effects is being a total memory hog. Oh, thanks, Amy. You're very welcome. That was a tricky logo to do as your first logo animation. And Amy found a really clever workaround where she went to Photoshop and cut out the stuff that she needed, which is fine. I mean, you do what you can, right? Like whatever it takes to get the project done in the end is pretty much legal as long as you get it done and it's in the right format. But you can't always do that. You can't always run a logo through Photoshop, especially if you're doing stuff for websites. Supna asked, can you show how to get it into After Effects? So I'm going to show how to get it into After Effects in my next live stream. Like I'm going to really get into like, this is how you do it. Here I'm mostly just going to be doing the logo preparation steps. If you can stick around for a few minutes after I do the preparation steps, by all means, I would be happy to go over the importing process. So in After Effects, I'm going to make a dummy composition, which is basically just an empty composition that has the settings that I want for frame rate and duration. So how many frames per second and how long is it going to last? And I want this to be 2997 frame rate. If you're working on Instagram, 24 or 30 are perfectly fine. If you're doing a GIF, 8 is okay, but the higher the frame rate, the smoother it's going to be. My duration, I'm just going to do something really simple, like 5 seconds. Fine. I hit OK, and then I'm going to delete it. Okay, let's go back to Illustrator just for a beat so that you guys can see. Open. I'm going to open up the Pfizer logo. And you're probably like, Pfizer logo, that's like super simple. But it's not, because the thing is, if you're animating it a particular way, you're going to want some things to happen with it that may not be able to happen as easily in Illustrator, especially if you're not that friendly with Illustrator yet. So the Pfizer logo, all I'm going to do to this, I'm going to make sure that in my document color mode, it is set to RGB. I'm going to go to my, what's it called? Artboard. I'm going to change my artboard properties to 1920 by 1080. Oh, look, now it's in inches. That's not good. Let me scroll down to HDTV 1080. And this is like giving me crazy inches, but whatever. I hit OK. And that's a very, very large logo. So just back to layers real quick. Selection menu, all, object transform, scale. And I'm going to make it just a teensy bit smaller. So maybe like 80%. And see how it defaulted to like whatever I had set it to last time? Like, yeah, not cool. Not cool, Pfizer. Right here, I'm going to change this to like 75, I guess. enter. I hit OK. And this would be a fairly easy enough logo to break up right in Illustrator itself. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to click on the group, object, ungroup. I'm going to click on the other group, object, ungroup. Okay. And then I'm going to click the belly button, hamburger, release to layers sequence. Okay. And then I'm going to select all these guys and drag them down. All right. So I want these letters to kind of come on in a particular way, and I don't want them to come on as letters. I want them to come on as like kind of more abstract shapes. So like semicircles, lines, circles, curves, things like that. I think that'll look really nice. And it'll be a lot more dynamic than just the letters coming in. Could I do this in Illustrator? Absolutely, but I already showed you how to do that. So I'm going to show you a different method, because some people, like honestly, some really good motion designers I know, they hate Illustrator and they will go to great lengths to avoid using Illustrator. And hats off to them, because they still do a kick-ass job of animation, but it's shortcuts like this that allowed them to maintain their sanity and continue animating in After Effects without having a tremendous grasp of Illustrator. So I'm going to do File, Save As. And oh, I guess I am, Sapna, going to show you how to import into After Effects, because I have to for this step. I'm going to change my file type to Illustrator, like Adobe Illustrator, because Illustrator also doesn't recognize EPS layers. Yeah, not cool. Not cool, After Effects. So After Effects isn't going to recognize anything but an AI file. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. And I'm waiting for the Are You Sure window. It's coming. Where are you? Are you sure window? There you are. Hello. I hit OK. And now I can go into After Effects and I can import it. So I did the dummy comp. Remember, that's a really important step, because otherwise you sit there and you have to like change the duration and the frames per second, and you have to stretch out all your layer content bars, and it just gets so annoying. So do the dummy comp thing. It is your friend. I'm next going to import it. File, import, file. I'm going to go over. No problem, Sapna. It doesn't show up correctly in After Effects when you do it. That's because you're doing it wrong, kiddo. It's all right. I did it lots of times wrong before I did it right. So here's logo prep. That's an annoying thing about the PC. It doesn't like remember the last place that I was. It's all right. It's still fast. For instance, my PC did a render in 7 minutes, and my friend had a similar project. It took 13 hours on her Mac, and her Mac was bought like last year, and my PC was bought like 2 years ago, and it was like half the price. Okay, enough. So here we go. I'm going to grab up my Pfizer logo, okay? At the bottom, where there is the import as information, if you're on a Mac, you might not see this. There's an optional options button, which is super annoying. And you have to make sure that options button is on so you can see all this crap at the bottom. Import as, composition, retain layer sizes. Okay? Turn off all these flippin' checkboxes. They are not your friend. Turn off the checkboxes. When you import as a composition retaining layer sizes, this assumes that you are not going back into Illustrator to make changes to your layers. I'm going to say that again. When you import as composition retain layer sizes, don't go back into Illustrator and make changes. It will cause After Effects to totally freak out. Turn off these checkboxes, because when you import as composition, it's already making a composition. Hit import. Wait for it. Sometimes there's like an Are You Sure window that comes up. And then you're going to double click on this composition, and that loads your layers into your timeline and into your composition viewer. Now, here's the thing. If I'm in Illustrator, there's a white background. If I'm in After Effects, it's a black background. What gives? Well, in Illustrator, this white background is an illusion. It is not real. When you go to the View menu and you go to Show transparency grid. Look at that. It's not a real color back there. It is in your imagination and in Illustrator's imagination. Likewise in After Effects, when you click the little transparent button, oh my gosh, it's like actually not anything back there. So if you want it to export with a white background, you have to make a white background. You can't just change the background color by going to composition menu, composition settings. No, that is not going to work. You have to go to layer, new, solid. Why? Because when you export out of After Effects, you're going to be using Media Encoder, and Media Encoder needs real art back there. Okay, friends? So solid settings, make it white, make it comp size, hit OK, drag its ass to the bottom of the stack and lock it. Okay? I know I'm only supposed to be on until 7 o'clock. We might go a little bit over. So sue me. Anyways, I did not label my layers. There are some rando layers that mean nothing. This guy that has like no content, I can just delete its ass. Bye-bye. This one right here, this is where we start to get into the money. So this is like letter R. I'm going to drag it down so that I kind of keep it in check. Alternatively, and probably more smartly, you can click on the letters just like visually and just be like, dude, this is what I want. Like, dude, this is what I want next, and so on. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate for you this really amazing thing using scripts, which is going to change your life when it comes to animating logos. Where are my, yeah, here's my rings. So my rings, my beautiful, precious rings. Okay, so those guys are all like down here at the bottom, not R. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yay. So those are my 4 pieces of ring, and I'm just going to label them because I do that. So that's going to be cyan, yay. And then these guys. Okay, so I'm going to take this letter P and I'm going to break it up into 2 layers. I'm going to have the semicircle and the stick, okay? I'm going to do this using my, I could use it with my pen tool and my rectangle tool, okay? So with the layer selected, and I can even like rename, no, not like that. I can click the name of the layer, I can hit return gently, and I can type in letter P, okay? And then I'm gonna take letter P and I'm gonna take my rectangle tool and oh crap, look, it's at an angle. So that's like not gonna work very well. So let's get the pen tool instead. And I'm gonna click here, I'm gonna click down, and I'm gonna click over and over, over and up and then over again. Okay, and see how it like stopped showing me stuff? Like that is not useful. It's also a yellow border. Like, can any of you see that? So I'm going to swivel open my mask. So I'm going to change the mask color to something that's like more obvious, like brown. And I'm going to change the mask mode from add to none. Okay, and then I'm going to zoom in with my scroll wheel a little bit, take my selection tool, move this guy over just a touch like this so that it's nice and clean. And then